No matter where you stand on college sports, it is official that college football is in a bit of a weird place. There's a lot of people pointing out the problems, not a lot of people pointing out solutions. However, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says that the NFL is willing to step in and help out college football among its very many issues here over the last few years. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Patrick, it's always great to hear from the commissioner. We hear from him every Super Bowl week. He kind of gives almost like a State of the Union type of speech. Yep. And he was asked a very pointed question, which I thought was a really good one, about the state of college football, because there is no doubt that the quote-unquote feeder program to the NFL is through college athletics. And navigating the waters, what we're seeing right now in college sports, I think is kind of cool that the NFL commissioner is coming out saying that they're willing to help.
Yeah, and I mean, when you take a look at exactly what is going on in college sports right now, I mean, you basically have the loose framework of a free agent period, whereas in the NFL, you have a very structured free agent period where, I mean, obviously the NFL is the professional ranks, and as we've talked about on this show a few times, it feels like the NCAA is basically becoming the minor leagues for basketball, for the
Correct.
NBA, and for the NFL. And so we're starting to see these guys that obviously over in basketball, the guys that played in the G League are returning to the collegiate ranks, like Charles Bediako, and as we may see, I mean, that could lay the groundwork for potentially some practice squad players that haven't gotten into games, or as we talked about on yesterday's show, Joey Aguilar suing for his 6th year of eligibility. So, I mean, I think it's good that, you know, the NFL is threatening to get involved in it, but not be overbearing in the sense where they're basically taking over what the NCAA is.
And nor do I think that's their place to. However, I do think they can be very instructive on what college football needs to do. You're asking specifically what they're talking about the NIL, talking about the transfer portal, also talking about tampering and other things that we have seen over the course of the last, I would say, 5 to 6 weeks here that really heightened it for college athletics. And I think that if you get to a point specifically with college football where there are some guidelines, I know they're putting guidelines around transfer portal. They went from 2 portal windows to 1 transfer portal window. I think that things like that need to be, you know, taken into effect. But the NFL already has this. The NFL already has they have a draft window.
Yeah.
They have a free agency window. They have set guidelines, and I'm just willing to say that college football is so much more like the NFL these days. So just model it like the NFL from a structured period standpoint. It doesn't have to be the exact same free agency, whatever, because you're dealing with colleges. They're on semester systems. So you have to be in college, and you have to be in school, be enrolled. So some certain dates will have to change. I just think that if you get to a point where it just mirrors it from a fundamental standpoint, it would actually look a little bit better. They're trying with revenue sharing and things like that, but it could still be a slippery slope to the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, and I mean, it just seems like at this point we've lost what the fabric of college sports are. I mean, it's you're first a student athlete, and it almost feels like you're just a minor league athlete at this point, because all these students care about it used to somewhat matter. Like when these students were these athletes were taking into consideration where they wanted to go. I mean, a lot of these athletes would go to Alabama to play for Nick Saban, and then on the college ranks, you know, go to Michigan, get a good education, have a chance at a national title, go to Duke, get a good education. I mean, the education was I can't really say for some of these guys, like, there's no way that Anthony Davis went to Kentucky to get an education. I just don't see that.
Yeah.
But for most of these athletes, it was to get your education first and then play sports as well. Now it's almost, all right, you know, I'm going to go to the school that's going to give me the most money. I don't even care about the academics at all. I just want as much money as I can. And it feels like ever since we opened that can of worms with NIL, it's just been on that slippery slope, as you mentioned.
It's a bit of a weird thing, because you mentioned the academics. Like, it reminded me of, when's the last time you heard somebody can't play because they're academically ineligible? I feel like I haven't heard that in 5 years.
There's only one case that comes to mind, and it was the whole Caleb Love didn't transfer to Michigan because he couldn't. He didn't have the grades to get in.
Correct.
So I got to give props to Michigan. You're the only university with a backbone right now
But they even before all of this, they were a really hard school to get into.
Yeah. I mean they're obviously not an Ivy League by any means.
Right.
But still they have such high standards for academics, and you just don't see that anymore. Like I'm sure. I don't want to throw Duke under the bus or anything, but I'm sure there's some athletes that are just going there that probably don't have the greatest grades.
Right.
I mean, I feel like a lot of these athletes don't really. You mean to tell me that people are going to school to get an education nowadays with how much money is being dished out? I just don't believe it.
These days, it's a pure
crazy
business. It's a pure business.
It's crazy.
It's a business just like the NFL that Roger Goodell runs. This is Roger Goodell during his State of the Union speech. Listen in.
Well, I don't think we have a role in that, Ben, to start with, as far as what we can do. Obviously, we have a great relationship with college football. We cooperate on a number of matters, including something I think is really important, which is our eligibility rules. I think our eligibility rules benefit the young men that come into the league because they stay in college football longer. But I also think there's obviously a lot of change going on and a lot of disruption, and they do need to bring some clarity to that. And I think that's something that if for some reason we can be helpful with the right people, we would obviously be willing to engage with anybody. But I think we try to stay in our lane unless we're invited in to be part of the solution.
Roger Goodell has been a guy that has stepped in it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that he gets booed at the draft every year because, and I think a lot of people really don't like Roger Goodell. And I know Patriots fans really don't like Roger Goodell after what happened with the whole Tom Brady thing. That's as close as a perfect of an answer I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're not going to overstep. We are going to help out. He used the word disruption, which I think is a perfect word to illuminate the state of college football right now, and did say we will help out. And I also do think that the NFL can kind of supply college football almost with if you want to call it a liaison, if you want to call it, a bridge.
Yeah.
There is could be a bridge person or a committee or a group that comes in and says, hey, let's work with the NCAA president or the college commissioners for the Power 4 schools, the group of 6 schools, have them all together, have leadership really step in and create some clear guidelines because college football really needs that. But I literally was so impressed by that answer. I just think that answer was kind of perfect as far as what the NFL can do, and I really hope it happens as a football fan.
Yeah, and I definitely like also what he brought up about the eligibility. And we've talked on this show about the NBA's eligibility rule where you have to at least spend 1 year out of high school. You can go play overseas before you can come back.
Yeah.
I think G League Ignite was a thing for a little while. Obviously, one of the more famous instances of a guy that played high school basketball and then went overseas to Australia to play for a year before coming back and entering the NBA draft was LaMelo Ball. So I understand that. I definitely like that it's not the same thing for football because you cannot have these guys at 19 years old going up against like Fred Warner or like one of the like TJ Watt. Like you just cannot have that.
Right.
So I think with what we're seeing in eligibility right now, in regards to the NCAA kind of picking and choosing who they're giving eligibility to, I think at a certain point, and this goes for the eligibility, this goes for the transfer portal, this goes for everything. At some point, you have to come up with an identity on who you want to be. Do you want to be this like so-called feeder league for the NFL or the NBA, where you basically have this free agency period, aka the transfer portal? Because some of these numbers are jarring, and over 3,000 FBS players. I believe last year there were over 1,000.
Right.
So we tripled that this year. That is a quarter of the players at the FBS level. You have 2 lawsuits, Damon Williams and Darian Mensah, over these NIL contracts. And at the deadline to enter, now keep in mind that that's the deadline to enter, not the deadline to transfer to places.
Right.
You basically had 1,200 people without a place to play.
With no home.
With no home.
Yeah.
And so at some point, you've got to come up with, do we want to be this like NFL minor leagues where we follow the same calendar as the NFL. We have these OTAs after the transfer portal, because it still would make no sense to have the transfer portal while you don't see right now. Obviously, the Super Bowl is this weekend.
Yeah.
You don't see free agency out
right
now.
You
you just don't see it.
You can't even talk to certain people at certain times. There's no windows to talk to those people, or there are punishments to be had. I mean, they're very, very concrete about this.
And there are specific windows when you can talk to these coaches about getting them to be your offensive coordinator or your head coach. In college, you can talk to them whenever you want.
Yep.
I mean, just look at Lane Kiffin. Just look at what happened this year.
Right.
And it's all a bipartisan or a byproduct of the schedule.
Yes. And they just need to have those guardrails. And it's not going to be 100% everybody agrees on the same things.
Right.
I just think that there can be some guidelines as it relates to it. They tried the guidelines with the transfer portal. Everybody has their own, kind of spin on how they think it'll work out, including South Carolina head coach Shane Beamer.
Enforce the rules and enforce them in a timely manner. This would be one thing. I'd be in favor. I know other coaches have talked about it. There's a one-time transfer, and then after that, you got to sit out a year like it used to be. I don't see any reason why that couldn't be the case. Used to, if you wanted to transfer, you had to sit out a year, and then that changed. I think it would certainly be better if, you don't want to keep anybody at a program that they don't want to be at, and everybody's got to do what's best for them. And I'm not trying to keep any student athlete, football, women's basketball, whatever, from being able to, better themselves. But I'd certainly be in favor of get one transfer, and then after that, if you want to transfer again, great. Nobody's going to hold you to it, but you got to sit out a year. I'd be in favor of. I'm not like anti-calendar like I think a lot of people are. Is December and January miserable in a lot of ways? Yeah, but I think you changing it maybe I don't necessarily think is the answer. I'm definitely a proponent of moving the season up. It's way too dang long. I do believe that. So I know I'm kind of giving you a big picture on everything, but those are things that I would see right now that just come to the forefront of my mind.
He brought up something there at the end that we'll talk about in hour two about the season being ridiculously long. And the playoffs are definitely getting a little bit too long, but again, we'll talk about that in hour two. But he's actually he doesn't hate the schedule right now with like the timing of things with like the portal.
Right.
Like that sounds a little bit interesting.
I did not mind this portal window. It makes it a little tricky for teams that are in the college football playoff. And I know that they have to be able to try to get it to where it matches up with the academic calendar.
Right.
That's the reason why you really can't do a day for day with the NFL model, because the NFL model has, the free agency window opens up in March. But I do think that there's a happy medium in there with the scheduling. And I thought that this year brought some clarity to that. I know that December is still insanely crazy for college coaches, the ones that are getting ready for the playoff, and you're recruiting high school talent. And for the coaches that are getting ready for a championship, it is that we talked a little bit about the insaneness of college basketball, and there is a natural question if there's going to be a trickle-down effect to football. And if the same model will just be used in football where a guy goes to the NFL draft, maybe doesn't get drafted, and next thing we know, we see him in a college football uniform again. I just think it's insane to think that this same thing can't happen in football.
Yeah, I mean, could we now? I'm sure Quinn Ewers is out of eligibility, but if Texas wanted to, Quinn Ewers also played in a game, so that he's out the picture anyways. But let's think of some other examples, like maybe Sam Hartman goes back to Notre Dame. If Carr doesn't work out over there. I mean, it's just I wouldn't be surprised if we did end up seeing this, just because we're starting to see this in the college basketball sense. So these guys are probably sitting there like, I am kind of in the same boat here. Albeit not the same thing as the G League, but I haven't really played any NFL games. What's stopping me from filing a lawsuit? I just got to go back to my college town and find the county court and just file a lawsuit in there, and I can suit up tomorrow. I mean, I don't see a reason why these players wouldn't start thinking about it, and that's just it's such a slippery slope, and I feel like we're just going to be saying all over the next few months until the NCAA finally does something about it.
Right.
It's just what is stopping these players?
Exactly. I have one that it's. I don't know if this could have worked because I don't know if Graham Mertz has run out of eligibility.
Oh, yeah.
But let's just say this past season, when DJ Lagway gets hurt,
Yeah.
Graham Mertz is sitting on the bench. He hasn't played a snap for the Houston Texans because he's behind C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
He's basically a bench warmer. Let's say he's not even QB2. Let's say he's QB3 on that team. He hasn't played a game yet. When DJ Lagway gets hurt, if he has another year, can he file an injunction and go play? Like that, it would not have been crazy to think that could be the case, given what we've seen with Charles Bediako, given what we've seen with Najee Taylor and a few others.
I've got a even better example, albeit not SEC, but you saw what happened to my Orange this year after Angeli went down.
Yeah.
Kyle McCord didn't play in a game.
Right.
What would have stopped him from filing a lawsuit and getting back in? He tried to fight this legal battle last year.
Correct.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
And he ended up going to the NFL draft, didn't get drafted, or I believe he did get drafted very late.
Yeah.
But he didn't play in a game.
Yeah, he didn't play,
The Orange could have used him again. He probably would have set another season record.
Yeah.
But, anyway, I mean, seriously, though, what is stopping these guys in the future?
There is none. And I think if anything is happening right now, the players that are in the back half of this draft that don't get in, if they have agents or lawyers, they're looking at all of this and saying, look, there might be a way back into college football, might be a way back into college sports, given everything that we have seen. I know a few coaches will be talking about this over the course of the next few months. Specifically, one of our good friends, Lindsey Bonner, asked Coach Golish this at the Senior Bowl about what could happen. This is on the heels of Charles Bediako.
Would you believe me if I haven't paid much attention to it? Man, crazy would add a bigger pool of players, wouldn't it? I don't know. I really don't. It would certainly add a bigger pool of kids. I think college football is evolving so fast, and every single time there's a situation like that, my antennas go up. And I think with every change or every ruling or lack of ruling, you've got an opportunity to either sit and complain about it, which I think we tend to as coaches. I've always looked at it the other way. It's like, man, where's the loophole in here? Who's available out there that we can go get that fits what we do? But certainly fascinating. From a legal side, fascinating.
And so he brings up a good point. It is fascinating. He keeps his antenna up.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a college coach, you kind of have to do that as the season goes along.
You ain't cheating. You ain't trying.
You ain't cheating. You ain't trying. It's that old quote from Talladega Nights, I believe, was the movie. Before we get out of here for this segment, the NFL also announced that they're going to another European city, going over to Paris for the first game for the first time ever. They'll play the New Orleans Saints. Will be one of the teams in that game. We'll find out the other team coming up a little bit later this spring. But this is another concentrated effort for the NFL to get more eyeballs on their product, and I don't think it's stopping anytime soon. And with the momentum of the NFL, Roger Goodell's got to be a really happy man.
No, and I think we heard just not too long ago, Robert Kraft, a guy that we talked about on the show yesterday, accidentally leaked that the NFL is trying to move to a 20-week schedule, play 18 games. And he also accidentally leaked that Goodell's trying to make every team play at least one international game. So this has been something in the works for him. He's trying to expand the game to a larger reach. And I mean, with baseball, you have Shohei Ohtani and these guys outside the country that have really been able to expand the game of baseball. NBA, you've got Wemby, you've got all of these guys from Europe that are expanding. And the NHL, it's largely dominated by Canada, USA, Russia, Sweden, some of these other countries.
Right.
The NFL, it's really local to Canada and the U.S. So, I feel like he's trying to catch up, so to speak, to some of these other leagues. And I know he even hinted at potentially hosting a Super Bowl overseas.
That'd be insane. I don't see that ever happening, ever.
No.
At least maybe not in our lifetime. I don't see. I mean, there's too many American cities to pass along. But there was, talk for a very long time that they were going to put a team in London full time over in England, and the talk was the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be that team. I think Jacksonville will end up staying, but I won't be a bit surprised if we don't see a team pop up over there across the pond.
Just
more
expand.
Than likely in
don't
Europe.
take a team away from here.
Right, yeah.
I mean, everyone's
I like
talking
the-
about expansion.
Exactly. And I like the international games. I hate waking up early, that early on a Saturday, but I love the games overall. I think
But
this will be a lot of fun.
I will say, you wake up, you've got the international game. I personally kind of like it because you've got the international game while you're making breakfast. You can watch that, and then as that game's done, it's the 1 o'clock slate, and then it's the mid slate, and then it's the night game. So I mean, you've got football
a full
all
day.
day. Yeah,
a full day of football. We'll have that once again this year in the games you just saw there on that graphic.